Hey, it's Grumpy Uncle Rob here. Welcome back to Polyglot. Today I'm going to be showcasing some switch repairs and mods. As you can see, got a whole bunch of parts and a bunch of extras and accessories and all kinds of stuff in front of me. So we're going to start with opening those up, seeing what we got, and then we'll start working on the switches. I have 3 here today out of a total of 6 that I've ordered off of eBay. Another one will probably arrive today, so I'll just add it to the stack. Let's get started. So we have controllers, we have a couple shells, we have docking cables, we have chargers. That's everything that we need to have complete sets for everybody that purchases one of these switches. I wanted to make sure that we got complete sets because a lot of the for sale ads here, at least through like Marketplace and from what I've seen on eBay, I've seen just the tablets going for between 125 and 175, depending on the quality of the device. So I figured if I'm going to be charging what I'm charging, which is $400, I needed to make sure that everything was included. So bumps up the value of that. You take at the medium, we'll say $150 per switch. So you say 150 for the switch. You throw in $15 for a docking cable, $15 for a charger, $50 for a controller. We're at $230 now. I charge $75 to install a mod chip. That's $305. Plus I charge another $150 for 75 of that is emulators and ROMs. And that's because I have 4 ROM sets and it does take a little while. It is time consuming. And then the other 75 is to fill it up. So anyway, so 305 plus 150, that's 465. That's not counting my time and labor actually like repairing the device. That's not counting any parts that are needed for the device, like if the digitizer needs to be replaced, if the shell needs to be replaced, if the speakers needed to be installed, things like that. And that's not counting shipping. So these are going to be 425 shipped to the US. And I'm going to eat a little bit on shipping on that, not much, including insurance and making sure that they're well packaged and everything will go up priority. This one is the tablet with bad speakers. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to show it on camera because it is black on black, but it looks like someone stabbed the speaker through here. So I don't even know if I'm going to need both speakers. I think I may just need the one. If you see that little dark spot under the text, that's where they stabbed. So I will be tearing this down and replacing the speakers. Or speaker. Let me, let's turn it on. Let me grab a set of Joy-Cons. Fire it up. We have Nintendo logo. I'm just going to pop this on the charger and see if it pops up. So it popped up with the charging icon. But it looks like it's completely dead, which does not surprise me at all. When I get these, I open them up and I check the condition, and I usually turn them on immediately just to make sure that they're functional, make sure that I don't got one that's got a broken screen, things like that. Let's see if this has enough charge to turn on. Not enough charge to turn on. Okay, so I'm going to leave that one plugged in, and we're going to move on to the next one. So this one needs a shell and controllers. That's it. In good condition. So let's look at this. The digitizer could use a little love. But most of this looks light enough that once it's on, you won't be able to really see it. So let me switch back to OBS. So I don't know if the light is catching that right enough for you to be able to see the scratches. There are some scratches on the surface, but it's not anything super like awful. And then I'll show you that it works. We have the Nintendo logo, Switch logo, and that initial boot from a freshly factory reset device. Okay, so we're gonna undock the controllers just to make sure. Listen. Okay, so they both clicked in, and I don't know if you heard it over the clicks of the actual physical Joy-Cons, but it gave that little, that it was locked in. All the buttons are working. I don't know why I'm testing my own Joy-Cons that I know work. Okay, so let's power this back down. Kind of ding-dong I am. Okay, so anyway, what that was meant to do was just to show that it was working and to check how bad the condition was of the screen. With it on, you can barely see anything on the screen. There is one spot right near the middle that's got a little bit of a darker scuff to it, but I don't think that you would see it unless you're looking for it. And granted, people are going to see it when the device is off. Absolutely. But it's none of these are going to be perfect. I'm trying to get them to as close as like 7.5 out of 10 to 8 out of 10 as possible. And that's where we're going to go. If this was any worse, or if there was any visibility to these scratches when the screen is, or when the device is turned on, or if the actual front shell was scuffed up in any way, shape, or form, it's got some very, very light scratches on the sides. But if it was like really scraped up, or the grill was like busted, or any of the screw holes were cracked through, or anything like that, I'd just go ahead and replace the front shell or the digitizer, depending on which one it needs the most, or both. But I don't feel like that's necessary here. So let's grab the Y00. And I don't know if you can see it on camera. Oh yeah, you should be able to see it. I have a little grid here that I'm putting the screws into to make sure that I don't mix anything up. I have these little magnetic squares on the side, but they are pretty much in use, holding some spare screws that I have, and then my bits and stuff, and I don't want to mix this up. And if anybody who has not seen my tool video is wondering why I'm not using an electric screwdriver for this, it's simply because the one that I have likes to strip screws. It's got a little bit too much torque. This should be Phillips 00. Yes, it is. Okay, so something tells me that this has been opened before. That screw is just spinning. So get our handy dandy scalpel here. Pop the screw out. There we go. Usually that's a dead giveaway. Okay, so dead giveaway number 1, that top screw was just spinning in place. Dead giveaway number 2, the bottom screws are completely missing. So yeah, so this is, I need to get the 2 rail screws off, and then this should be ready to just pop apart. Okay, set that off to the side, get that out of my way, and then I'll go ahead and just, yep, yeah, that back popped off way too easily. This has definitely been opened before. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to look for damage or dirt or missing screws, or so there's a missing screw right there, dead center. That's lovely. Let's go ahead and start tearing this down. That looks to be the only thing that's missing, but there is some oxidation on the SD card slot. I hope that doesn't mean that this is something that they stole the SD card slot out of and gave me a faulty one. We shall see, I guess. This is a V1 or a V2? It's a V2. Okay. So, oh, and that's another sign. So those 2 screws that are missing, the holes that those screws go to, one of them is completely broken off. The other one is cracked and at an angle. Just more and more, which it doesn't matter. I'm replacing the shell, so that I don't care about. What I do care about is this was sold as quote unquote untested, and The only issue with it was needing that it was in bad condition. So they confirmed that it turned on, and that was it. So I'm upset because somebody opened this, but I do not know if the person who sold it to me is the original owner, which, let me take a look here to see if it's, so it was from a person, it's not from a business, which that's not necessarily anything. But I was thinking maybe, you know, if it had a business name on it, maybe it was like a pawn shop or something that took it in, and all they did was turn it on, see that it worked, and then decided to sell it without worrying about refurbishing it. So it's entirely possible that the person that I bought this from is not the original owner. I will review the eBay listing for this later. I know for a fact it did not say that it had been opened previously, because I would not have purchased it, or I would not have purchased it for what I paid for it, I should say, because I think this one cost me like 120 or 130, which is not the best deal in the world, considering I do have to put work into it, but it is functional, so I can't moan too much about that. So, alright, that popped out fairly easily, which leads me to believe there is a possibility that this is not the original that shipped with this unit. That's not necessarily true, but it just makes me feel that way because I know it's been opened. So I'm gonna feel that way no matter what. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up, and this came up way too easy too. I don't know if you saw that. It's not sticking to the thermal putty. My video is jumping all around. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I fixed the autofocus. All right. So I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if you could see it before. It's not sticking at all to the thermal putty that should be on top of the heat pipe. So yet another indication that this has been open. Plus there's dents in the heat shield. So we're gonna go ahead and pry this up, take a look at it. Yeah, so somebody took this apart and did not reapply the thermal putty, so that's always fun. So this bad boy could have been overheating if they used it at all. Everything looks kosher from a brief glance. This just needed a shell, so we're not going to tear it down. You know what? Yes, we are. I was going to say we're not going to tear it down any more than this, but I do need to install a mod chip, and I need to replace the thermal putty and thermal paste. So let's go ahead and get this heat pipe off. Okay. I keep squeezing up here. I'm worried I'm going to turn it on, so I'm going to do what I should have done 5 minutes ago, using a plastic spudger or pry tool or whatever you want to call that. All right, so the power is unplugged, battery is unplugged, so, and the battery seems to be in good condition too, so that's always a plus. I'm not seeing any overt damage to any of the ribbons. All right, so let's go ahead and grab my sewing needle and get this shield off. And yes, I do this without the aid of the microscope, simply because I find that my fine motor skills kind of go by the wayside when I'm not looking directly at my hands. I don't know if there's it's because it's a very slight delay, or if it's because I don't have any depth perception when looking at a video. But I do notice that I have issues trying to do this particular part under the microscope. So that should be enough to get that up. Yep, there it is. Okay, so that's free. Put the needle back in the little hole I got for it. Grab that and move it out of the way. Come on. There we go. Thermal paste is dry, and telltale signs that it's been lifted before, because it's got air bubbles and stuff in it. So we will be cleaning that. I have some ESD brushes, or I don't know if they are ESD safe. I do know that Zach over at NanoFix suggests them because of how light and super fine and super soft the bristles are. So I will be using those in the future, but for now, I got my handy dandy, softest bristles possible Colgate toothbrush that I use to clean this stuff up. So first thing I'll do for the toothbrush, so I grab cotton swab, and let's turn this camera a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I'll grab this cotton swab and I'll clean up as much of this excess that I can. And yeah, this is very dry. It's resisting me a lot. I do try to keep this as family friendly as possible because my nieces and nephews watch these videos, and I don't want them to have to stop because I can't control my mouth. So, do my very best to curse as little as possible. Just take a second and think about what I'm going to say. So, what I generally do is I scrape off as much as I can with the Q-tip, then I'll hit it with ISO and a toothbrush, and I'll be, like I said, I'll be replacing that with the ultra soft bristle brushes that were recommended by Zach. And then I use this just to get like all of the paste up and like moving around, and so it's not as like stuck on anymore. Then I'll put a Chem wipe over the top of it. And we'll go over it with that brush again. And this will help get up a lot of that that thermal paste that got left behind from the Q-tip. Okay, that's probably about as good as that's going to get for now. I don't know why my trash can is not over here. All right, we'll just set that there. Okay. Won't be using the hot air today, I don't think, so. Unless one of those. I did buy 2 with bad USB-C ports. So, and I think it's just physical damage to the ports, so hopefully there's no traces ripped or anything like that. If there is, we'll do some trace repair, but I don't think that's going to be the case. So we come back over this with a Q-tip soaked in ISO, and this is just to get up the last remnants of any of that thermal paste that got left behind. And we do have just a little bit of thermal paste still in between these capacitors. So I'll just use the tip of the toothbrush to get those back up. Put the toothbrush away because that is all I needed that for. I'm just going to go back around the outside a little bit just to make sure that this kind of like grayish color is just from the alcohol evaporating and not any left behind thermal paste. Okay, so it's pretty uniform color now, so I can be confident that that is got all the thermal paste up. So before we continue, let's go ahead and get the mod chip installed. So let's lift the eMMC. Okay, take a look at the eMMC and just hit that with a little bit of ISO, just because that adhesive is there. Grab Q-tip and just rub it a little bit. Doesn't need to be too crazy, just trying to get that adhesive up. Okay, so we'll set the eMMC off to the side. And we'll grab our mod chip. And I do need to grab a pair of tweezers. Should have had that out already. So there's the V2 ribbon. We have the eMMC lifted, so we can solder, we can actually connect that up to this board. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to step over to my other computer, make sure that this board is programmed, and I'll be right back. Okay, I know that was pretty much instant for you, but I've been gone for about 3 hours, and the chip was not flashed. So I went and flashed it. So we will go ahead and grab that NAND and pop it on here. NAND is connected. Set that to the side for now. We're not going to have it in the way while we're trying to solder. Let's go ahead and get our CPU flex in place. A little shaky this morning. All right, so now we have this here, Everything looks properly aligned. So go ahead and fire up. Wait, let me make sure I have the K-tip on there. Yep. Go ahead and fire up soldering iron. Go ahead and while we're waiting, go ahead and put some flux on here. So, got my flush cutter. I'm just grabbing some solder. So, soldering iron's nice and hot. 375. Probably don't need to go up that high, but that's just what I'm used to working with. So, and I haven't burned anything up yet, other than a resistor once, and that wasn't because of the heat of the iron. It's because of how long I sat on it. I'm going to turn on the extractor now, so I don't know how much of this is going to be distorted or blown out. I haven't tested the mic with this extractor, so let's see what happens. So that is providing a little bit of background noise, but from the spikes on the mic, it doesn't look like it will be drowning me out. So that's good. Okay, it's a little bit out of focus. Why didn't you guys say anything? There we go. It's a little better. And of course it moved. Son of a gun. I knew it was going to do that. We'll put it in place. Take this out. And I think we're going to be good. Ah, fiddlesticks. Okay. So that pad is over the rail. So I need to adjust it a little bit. I'm not going to be able to do that without taking the solder off or taking this blob off. Damn. So you guys get to see all the mistakes. We got the line correctly. It needs to go up a hair. Okay, so okay, that looks aligned, that looks aligned, those are aligned. We're good to go. Alright, that needs a little more soldering. Alright, we have connection. Okay, now I can stop worrying about this flex moving around. And for those of you wondering, I am using my chip quick NC191 for this. I do have another tube of this coming. I tend to use it more than the Nano, just because the M35, just because of the plunger situation that I referenced on my video. Okay. Let's see if I can come in from the top so that I'm not like touching both of those points. Don't seem to be making contact. There we go. The CPU flex rhythm is one spot that I'm really going to appreciate having 210, 115 iron tips whenever I get my G-Boom. Both of these other JVCs that I have the 210, but I really want to see how the 115 performs. But it would be nice to have something that you can actually get in here with, without worrying about bridging unintentionally. And I don't understand what's going on here. Let's try it from this side first. I am not making contact with that pad. That's got to be the problem. Alright, let's clear off the tip. There's way too much solder on there. Okay, so the pad is 10. Is there just too much distance between the pad and the capacitor? So we need it to be there. That. Looks like it's connected, but let's just be sure. Okay, that's connected. That's there. And that's connected. So, why am I so shaky this morning? Oh, I don't have this in continuity mode. Idiot. I'm like, why isn't it beeping? Okay. No continuity there. These are bridged. How? It's for sure bridged. So, let's get the soldering iron back out and reflow these. I cannot wait to use a new soldering iron. How do I still have continuity? Let's clean this up and see if I can see anything a little bit better. After I get all this flux out of here, doing this with a nano sponge. Okay, I do need to clean that point on the SP2 pad, on the SP2 ground pad. I don't see anything that could possibly be bridging. Like, it's not even close. Unless there's something behind it. Okay, let's check it again. $16 ohms. Wait. My meter's just high. What is going on? Okay, just so we all know I'm not crazy. I'm in continuity mode. No. You guys can hear it beeping. Continuity there. Continuity there. Continuity ground on all points. Alright, I'm gonna play it better safe than sorry. I am going to remove it and redo it. Yeah, my meter's not jacked. I'm getting 0.33 across all these capacitors to ground. Something's wrong. Probably needed some flux here. And I just took that capacitor off. Oh, I'm an idiot. Yep, there's the capacitor. Stuck to the ribbon. So outside of the circuit, there's no continuity across this capacitor. Okay, let's clean this up. Keep in mind, I'm not super duper worried about that capacitor because I'm told This is weird. We still have ground on this guy. Okay, so the reason that I'm not worried about the capacitor is because I'm told that this will function without the capacitors. I really hope that's true. Ooh, let's not stick our finger on the soldering iron there, guy. Okay, got that up, kind of. So all of these have continuity of ground. I don't think that they're supposed to. But let's put the ribbon back, and let's see if it boots. Let's take the capacitor off. I don't want to be guessing as to where those pads are. Okay. Got the capacitor. Got the ribbon moved out of my way. Let's put the capacitor back where it goes. So it looks like I'm missing one of the ends of the capacitor. Let's bring this ribbon back over here and see if it's on there. It does not look like it. Alright, so I don't know how the heck I managed that. Unless that's it on the board there. So maybe when I ripped it up, I actually ripped the capacitor in two. Yeah, that's probably what happened. This is the first for me, folks. And of course it has to happen on camera. Sorry to be silent, folks, but this is harrowing work. Let me tell you something. When it comes time to do my soldering iron tests, I have some custom boards coming from China specifically to test soldering irons. They have some pads on them for like a drag solder pad and HDMI pads, USB-C pad. Okay, I'm just going to remove this this capacitor for now. What's left of it. And I'm going to see if there's anything there left behind. I'm not going to scrape. I'm just going to rest the tip of these tweezers, and then I'm going to try to like lightly glide across and see if I meet any resistance. I meet resistance from that freaking capacitor next to it. Okay, so yes, there is the end of the capacitor there. Okay, so let me see if I can get that off. As I was saying, the test boards are going to have HDMI ports, or an HDMI port, and USB-C port, and then it's going to have little pads for soldering on components. And I have 0201 pads. Okay, so that came off. I don't know where it is, but it came off. I don't know what to think anymore. So it's going to have 0102 or 0201 pads, 0402 pads, 0603 pads, and then I think a 1206 pad. And I gotta tell you, this iron is going to do horribly in that test. And once again, that may just be me. Maybe I'm just horrible with this, which I am with this particular iron. I do not have much. I have issues with dexterity already, and that iron is clunky and huge in terms of tip size and everything else. Hold it in place. Let's see. Okay, so those are all lined up. I'm going to slide it just a smidge. Nope. You use two hands. There we go. I think that should be good for that SP1 point. I don't think that's enough. There we go. Oh, that's crooked. Damn it. Today is not a good day, man. That seems a lot straighter. Okay, so go ahead and reheat this pad. That looks good. That should be fine. So now we'll try to solder the SP1 point. And if anybody's wondering why I am not like sitting on these, because I don't want to roast these components. And unfortunately that haste is what made it so easy for me to rip that capacitor off. Speaking of that capacitor, where the hell did it go? It must be under the ribbon. That must be it right there. Yes, it is. We need to get that off the board before we progress. No! Oh, done it. Alright, I'm going to put the soldering iron down for a second and give myself a little bit of stability. Seeing how I can't stop shaking. There it is. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and remove this. I'm going to set it off to the side. I don't understand this at all. Also, you insane people who do this without a microscope. How? There are people who do this without a microscope. Now, I understand doing it with a magnifying glass, I guess, because it's a more natural magnification. Not that there's no such thing as natural magnification, but... Alright, so it looks like the left side is good. Just need to get the right side. And the right side's good. Okay. I don't care what this does. I do. I do care. But I'm going to try to fire it up either way. I don't know. Got the power plugged in. I forgot. It won't boot without the NAND. So I got to pop the NAND on there. So popping the NAND into the slot. Let's pop in. It's good and tight. Here we go. I see it, you can see it. So it boots. Well, we get a Nintendo logo. We get a Switch logo. I don't know what the hell is going on. I have never measured continuity across those points. But we have just tested a theory that is true. We just confirmed you don't need all of those damn capacitors. Let me rephrase. You don't need SP2. I don't know if you need SP1. I'm not going to play that game. That sends us down the road of heartache. I don't need this anymore. Let's get the NAND back off. Okay. Plugging the NAND back into the mod chip. We're going to connect. So next, what we have to do is, I don't know, I'm going to hold this up to the camera so you can see it. So on the right-hand side is the connector that goes into the NAND port. On the bottom is the connector that's going to connect to that CPU flex cable, or flex ribbon, sorry. So I'm going to try to get that lined up here. So first things first is the ribbon. So let's make sure that the little lever is up. So There we go. Okay. Flip it over. Pop it in the port. It is plugged in. That is plugged in. And I never disconnected the power. Don't do that, kids. I connected the power and then turned it on to make sure that it still turned on, and then never disconnected the power before I started messing with it again. Make sure, as soon as you power it off, you disconnect that battery connector again. Chances are pretty good nothing's going to happen. Don't take that chance. Because if it doesn't power up now, I'm going to be a sad panda. Okay, 1, 2, 3. We should get the no SD card screen. I'm looking at the chip, making sure it's going to glitch. Blue, 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 blue. Evidently it does. There we go. It glitched. No SD card. I was going to say, evidently it does need that second capacitor, but I was wrong. Maybe that just causes it to take longer to glitch. All right, we're going right back in here with the spudger to remove the battery connector again. Now I am done with the mod chip. It is installed. The only thing that I have to do is I have to slap an SD card in there. I have to set up the EmuMand. I have to make backups of the boot profiles and backup of the NAND itself. And then it'll be ready to use. But we're going to switch views. We're going to switch back to the overhead view. Okay. And the reason for that is because we're going to move the microscope out of the way. Because what we're doing now doesn't need it. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off the fume extractor. Done soldering, so I don't need that anymore. And I should be easier to hear now. Everything looks good here. That's good, that's good. There's a little tension there, but that's okay. It's the first time I've ever seen... So I've seen people lift those capacitors before. I've never seen anybody rip one in half like that. But you could see it was missing the end, and while you couldn't necessarily see the end of it on the board, or I'm sorry, on the APU, there was resistance when I tried to move across that pad with my tweezers. So, I don't know, that's crazy. Anyway, now it's time for the cosmetic mods. Thankfully, for the V1 and V2, that just means backplate. Everything else goes on the Joy-Cons. And I don't have the Joy-Cons yet, so that's all I will be doing right now, is putting that on, slapping the grill covers on as well. I knew there's something else in here that I needed. These are buttons, 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 buttons. More buttons, screws, 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 screws. Screwdrivers. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, so go ahead and put that back the way it was. Lower that down. Close up the box. And get that out of the way. Okay, so it looks like the one that had a dead battery is fully charged now. Don't know if you can see that. I don't remember what I did. Oh, there they are. There's my Joy-Cons. All right, so I'll unplug this. Console battery is at 100%. If I'm not mistaken, this is the one that just needs speaker. Yes, this is the one with the mucked up speaker. This was the one that had nothing wrong with it. It just needed shell swab. Okay, and Joy-Cons. All right, so this one was... It may have been factory reset, but it somehow set itself up. Yeah, it just says user's page. So they did factory reset it. Or at least it appears that they did. And we are not getting any noise at all. So hopefully it is just where they stabbed that speaker. But I'm starting to doubt it because there's no damage to the other side. All right. So it might be the audio IC. I'm just going to set it right back where it was charging so I don't lose track of it. First, I'm getting a little overwhelmed here. Set this down. And we're going to set this out of the way for a second. And we're going to grab the old back. And we're going to go ahead and take this off. This is the kickstand bracket. We don't need the kickstand itself, we just need the bracket. So let's grab our handy dandy screwdriver. Okay. It should be enough, right? Yep. That's enough so that I don't have to. Oh yeah, I'm still gonna have to. Damn. Thought I was gonna get away with not having to take off that tri-ring screw, but no such luck. Okay. So now we take off the tri-ring screw. And then we lift this off. Okay. So that's the bracket that we need. We just pop that in there. And then the tri-wing screw goes here, and our 2 Phillips goes here after we put it back in the housing. So we're going to go ahead and put this on this bad boy. So, actually, no we're not. We're going to put all the shells and everything back into place and reapply the reapply the thermal paste and all that stuff. You can probably tell every time, like every time I get up and come back, because the camera angle probably changes a little bit. Clean up all of the old thermal paste and thermal putty, and we're going to replace it. So let's get started. We want to make sure we clean everything else up first. That way we're not having to constantly stop and do it. So, got the shield. And after I clean this up, I will be cutting the shield so that it will not pinch that ribbon that is going to the mod chip. So, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but clean it up. So whenever I clean up thermal paste, I always go over it with a dry Q-tip and get up as much as I can with a dry Q-tip first before I ever put any alcohol on here. Because once you put alcohol on here, everything gets messy. And that's okay, like, you know, at some point you have to. You don't really have a choice. But let's not give ourselves any more work than we absolutely have to. Okay. And we got to be careful when we're cleaning off the top of this, because it is very flexible, and we could end up denting this or like crunching something and it won't fit properly, and it's a whole nightmare. Let's go ahead and trim this. So I know from experience exactly where it needs to be trimmed. I've done enough of these V2s, but I'm going to show you on camera so that you understand where I'm coming from. And I know it's funny for me to sit there and say, oh, I've done enough of these. And then, you know, 20 seconds ago, I whipped a capacitor off the APU. So, all right. So what we're going to do is, when we put it on, we're going to lift this up, and it's going to go on just like this. Now, I'm going to set it there. I'm not going to put it on, and just so that I can see and show you where the ribbon is. So if you look, it's right where this bracket is that clips into the guard that runs around the APU and the memory. So all we need to do is just clip that bracket off. It's a little bit wider than the bracket. It's about 1/4 of an inch wider than the bracket on both sides. It goes from about here to about here. I don't know how well you can see that on camera. Actually, you know what? This is the kind of thing that the microscope is for. The ribbon goes from about right here to about right here. So we'll trim that little bracket off, and I keep moving. we'll trim that little bracket off with a pair of flush cutters. So let's get that out of there. Get the microscope out of my face. And then grab our flush cutters. This is the bracket we need to trim off, so we're just going to go ahead and do that. And then you'll see now that it's sticking up. I'll bring the microscope camera back in so you can see. So now you can see it now, it's sticking up. So I'm just going to cut that off now that it's been pressed out and I can access the base of it. And honestly, you don't have to cut this. Bending it up is enough. So if you want to leave that tab on there, it is completely optional. So that's clean on both sides. Well, not clean, I still have to go over it with rubbing alcohol, but that's the mass majority of the paste has been cleared off. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's got a big chunk of paste right here. Almost done. Alright, I've gotten the majority of the thermal paste off this. Now it's time to go over it with rubbing alcohol. Alright, so the die is fairly clean already. Let's go over the shield. Super important that you get this clean, because this is the part that's actually going to be in contact with the die. So it's going to be doing most of the heavy lifting here as far as the heat transfer goes. So make sure you get it really clean. Don't have any of this old thermal paste hanging out. And then we want to make sure we get the other side clean as well. Once again, same spot, because it's super important to have this area clean. And finally, we are at the heat pipe. Rubbing alcohol and clean. It looks like a scorch mark on the heat pipe. I don't know if you guys can pick it up on camera there. There's a dark spot here. And I don't think it is just thermal compound or thermal paste, because even with my fingernail, it doesn't really seem to be coming up. Interesting. Get that. Heat shield. It doesn't have to be perfect. Thermal putty is a little bit more forgiving than thermal paste, which doesn't really make sense because it's a lot less viscous, hence putty versus paste, but it is what it is. Okay, so there's a dark spot on the heat shield too, and it looks like right about where it would go. That's odd. Heat shield's done, thermal pipe is done, APU shielding is done, APU is done. So it's time to start applying the paste. You can apply it in whatever manner you want to apply it in. I know people who swear by the square, people who swear by the dot, people who swear by the X. They all get it done. I've seen multiple tests that show they all get it done. I personally use the X because it looks to be the most complete. But you can do it however the hell you want. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise either. The arguments over that kind of stuff is stupid. And I don't do a true X. I do like a sideways division sign. I do a line across and then 2 dots. Just because it's easier to deal with. Like I said before, we're going to fold this up and get it out of the way to get the shield in here. Get the shield And then we just want to push down. So that one is good to go as far as the shield. Let's get the, what is the coverage of the heat pipe here? Make sure I'm not way overdoing it. Yeah, I would have way overdone that. All right, so I'm just going to do 3 dots here. Now, before we move on to put the thermal paste on here, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to put a couple layers of Captain tape on here. Actually, if we do the right one, we should be able to do it in 1 layer, I would think. Yep. If you hear what sounds like construction, it's because they are replacing part of the ceiling in my bathroom because the people upstairs, their toilet leaked into my ceiling, which is always what you want. Doo-doo water ceiling. Let's get that on there. I have some extra, and rather than like fumble with it and try to cut it off, I'm just going to loop it over because it doesn't really matter. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to line up the shield and we're going to cut out where the mod chip goes. Now you can get my fingerprint so you can frame me for murder. I'm going to set this here. And first I'm going to line it up with the screw holes. Now we're going to slide the shield straight up until we see the mod chip. We want to get to the actual chip itself, not just the eMMC. So we're going to go just a little bit higher. There we go. The first cut is going to go here, and then the other cut is going to be here. And in fact, I'm going to cut at the end of that black tape. I always like to give myself a little bit of breathing room, simply so I don't have to do this twice. Cut that out, and you can dispose of that. Now, when we set this down, you'll see it does not touch the mod chip. Part of this is to make sure that it doesn't short, but also it helps, like if you have a clear case or something, you can see the reflection of the LED on the mod chip through the back plate so that you can see when it's glitching. And if it doesn't glitch, you can see the error code. Now that we have that cut and lined up, I'm going to go ahead and put the thermal putty on. K5 Pro. It says thermal paste, but it's not. It's more of a putty. So we will get a generous slap of that, put it on the heat pipe. And this stuff is a little tacky, it's a little sticky, but it's enough that you can like manipulate it with your fingers if you need to. So you're not sitting here with this little spatula or whatever you want to call it, trying to manipulate this and get it to where you need it to be. Okay, so we are good to go. One thing I have forgotten this so many times. I've shipped a Nintendo Switch Lite with this particular problem. The user thought to take the back off and check to see if the battery was plugged in. So good on him. Smart guy. I don't remember his name right off the top of my head. He knows who he is, and if you're watching, smart dude. Thank you. Because I would have ate the shipping on that both ways just to open it up. So the thing that I forgot to do was I forgot to plug the battery back in. So battery goes in. All right, so I'm gonna line this up. Make sure everything's copacetic. We have to be a little bit more careful this time because we have that thermal putty there. Okay, so I don't like the fact that that's touching. I don't like that at all. Let me just put another piece of tape on there. I'm just looping this around the side. That's got the shield close to it. I thought I lopped off enough of that shield, but I guess not. It's my anal retentive, like, I don't want to take a risk of it shorting. Obviously, I could have just lifted the shield back up, trimmed a little bit more off, but I didn't want to disrupt the putty. First thing we're going to do is we're going to replace that screw that was missing. Not going to screw it in all the way because it is a center screw, and my daddy taught me you tighten lug nuts in a star pattern. Is that absolutely necessary? Who knows? That's what I was taught. And the one area we need to be careful is this bottom corner here. You can't see it on camera because of the scope. Let's just move that out of the way there. Doesn't need to be on. We're not looking at anything under the microscope anyway. So this area here, where the SD card reader goes, we have to be careful because there's a few spots where it's just like where posts go up. So we skip those. And then there's a few spots that are taken up by, one's taken up by the backplate and one is taken by the SD card reader. So this one is actually done by the backplate, this one is done by the SD card reader, so this is the only screw we need to put a hole in. This is the only hole we need to put a screw in. Let's get that right. And then I'm short one because I filled in a hole that didn't have one before. So, there we go. Alright, now we put on the back plate. And the back plate has those posts that were missing screws earlier. So I'm going to see, I'm sure I have screws that'll fit. I have a lot of extra screws from a lot of devices that I've broken. I have made the regrettable mistake of learning on someone's device. And that is no bueno. But it has taught me some valuable lessons, like when and where you should be gambling, and when you should just take the W that's been handed you, even if you don't like the way that it came about, or the way that you have to do it. I learned that for a while, kamikaze method was not for me, and that's okay. So I do have a couple of switches out there that have the .0 adapters on them. I haven't given up. I know how to do it. And the next OLED that I get is getting the treatment again. And if I fail, which I won't, but if I do, crap, I gotta take that back off. If I fail, then I'll be on eBay buying another OLED motherboard. All right, so 20 points to Gryffindor if you can figure out what I forgot. And I totally regret saying that. What I forgot was these speaker grills and the little foam squares. It's the one bad thing about this being the only room in the house that has enough space for everything. It is a carpeted room. I hate it. Got that off. Now we line it up. Press it on. Good to go. Speaker grill number 2. Line it up. Press it down. We're ready to go. These go in the corners, right above the screw holes. I don't know what they're for, but I'm not in the mood to tempt fate. I'm gonna grab our switch again, and this time we're gonna put the back on. Oh, no we're not. 2 things I forgot. It's the all-important SD card reader. Not getting anywhere without that. Pop that back on, and we have a screw to put in place. So, come here, little baby screw. Thank you very much. Anybody at home see where I put the screwdriver? There it is, right in plain sight. It's really funny because everybody who knows me personally says that I'm a very grumpy person. And my nieces and nephews think it's hysterical to call me Grumpy Uncle Rob. But I was told I came off with a Mr. Rogers vibe on these videos. So I'm just going to embrace it. This damn thermal paste gets everywhere. Okay. Then I'll go ahead and put in the tri-wing screws. As much as I hate changing tips, I want to get those taken care of. I like putting these in first because they're the most stabilizing and they bring everything together as far as like actually bringing the case together. So it makes everything else line up as it should so that I don't have to fight with any of the other screw holes. I'm going to put the Phillips back in. I'll put my 2 rail screws back in. And then I'll see if I have any screws for the small screws on the top and the bottom. That's the wrong screw. I had the right screw out the first time. Now, I only had 1 screw in here before, and it was spinning, and I screwed up. Forgot this. No serial number on this unit. Very interesting. I'm removing these 4 tri-wing screws again because we have to put the game slot cover on. I was just trucking along. Everything was going great. Oh, I left a screw in. Put that there. Now I should just lift. Put it on there. Good to go. Sucks to have to rip it all apart just to do that, but that's what happens when you make mistakes. The only proper way to fix it is to not take shortcuts, to lock everything in as it's supposed to be, and make everything work the way that it's supposed to work. Not by trying to make something easier. It bites, but it takes more time. But put the tri-wing tip away. Put in my 2 rail screws. Now I'm going to check to see if I have any of these little baby screws. Pretty sure I do. There's one. Full beans. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move these 2 down here. This one goes on the top. It is slightly longer. Something I've learned the hard way, especially in a room with carpet. Always put all of your screws, or remove all of your screws, over the mat. Sometimes I like to bring it close to my chest or in my lap to like get leverage or something. It never works out. And that should go without saying. In any situation, you probably don't want to do that. Okay, first screw is in. Let's get rid of these bottom 2 screws. 1 in, 2 in. That looks like thermal paste. In the friggin' screw hole. Because you know why not? Okay, so I can see a faint blue flash behind the speaker grill. And this time it's taking its sweet time glitching. Turn it back off. And this one's good to go for now. As soon as I get one of those sets of Joy-Cons in the mail, which I think one set comes tomorrow and the other set comes on Saturday. This is being recorded on Thursday, by the way. I'll get those Super Nintendo shells on those controllers and get this sucker taken care of. That one is good to go. I'm going to slide it in this envelope and get it out of my sight. And then I have this back shell if I ever need, well, super dusty, but I guess I could clean it. If I ever need a back shell for anything, it's not in the greatest condition, but it's also not horrible. Plus I got speaker grills on there, the game card slot, which I should be able to pull off a donor. Like if I'm swapping this out for a really, really bad backplate, I could take the kickstand or the game slot cover off of that one. Anyway, let's get this out of our hair. Just gonna set it right over here. So here we have one that powers up, turns on, showed you it earlier. No sound from the speakers. Unfortunately, I don't think it's the speakers. I bought speakers to replace. I don't think it's the speakers because there's only damage to one grill. And there's 2 speakers in here, and we're not getting sound out of any of it. So I have a feeling it is the audio IC. But we're going to find out. So let's take off the rail screws. This is actually where I found out that my electric screwdriver has way too much torque. I was trying to take the rail screws out of a brand new, in the box, V2 switch. Oh. Well, okay. I'll fix that. He called me up and he was like, oh, I want to get the girl something for Christmas. Do they still make Wii's? And I was like, that's not a path you want to go down, old man. Some of these, I don't think they put the same screws on Wii's, because some of these, the 00s won't get the tri-wing screws out. And I have to use a single 0. I don't know if I'm just getting lucky on some of them, and I should be using the single 0 on all of them, or if it's legit 2 different size screws. This one was the one that needed speakers. I don't think there was anything else wrong with it. Needs shell and Joy-Cons. Why did it need the shell? Oh, because of the speaker grill. Duh. All right, well, I don't have another shell here today, so should I even be working on this one? Well, yeah, because the shell's just the back plate, so once I get done with this one, I'll just tidy it up and put everything back on except the back shell. Okay, so I do have a shell that's coming in today. The one that's already sold. The wave shell. That nice Japanese painting of the wave. And another one missing a screw. These people just can't leave all enough alone. Got the back case off. So I don't understand how that came out. Unless... Oh, okay, so it's missing a piece. Pop back in. But then as soon as you try to kick it back out, it's just going to kick off again. Weird. Anyway, I don't see any missing screws. There's some hair in here. And there's a little oxidation on the SD card reader, but that was consistent with the last one too. So anyway, this is another one that's just got to get the, what is it, shell and Joy-Cons? Yeah, just shell and Joy-Cons. Which, like I said, the shell isn't even that bad. Like, honestly, I would consider leaving the shell if it wasn't for the kickstand. Which, the replacement shells don't come with the parts for the kickstand. Oh, I might have to go on Amazon and see if they have kickstand assemblies. That one was actually kind of stuck on there, so... But there's something hanging up on it now. Like it's... Huh. That was weird. Very weird indeed. Oh yeah. So, that goes there. And what is that chip? Is that, like, melted that stuff on there? I don't think that's normal. I need a polarizing lens. Because I cannot read the markings on that chip. And I can tell from an angle that there are markings on that chip. I tell you, there is a lot of fuzz and hair in this unit. The damage to the speaker grill, I'm now thinking about, would not have made it past the heat shield. And further, neither one of these speakers faces that way. Alright, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave the battery plugged in, and I'm going to stop disassembling this. And we're going to go ahead and replace the speakers. And we're going to test. I'm going to have to go back and watch this video to find out where I put those damn speakers. So if you're watching this from the future, which you are, then you know probably right where this was. Because you probably watched the video and saw me put it there. I set it here to begin with, and then I set it over here. Well, I picked up the charger, set it over there, put the charger on top of it. Ergo, it got hidden by the charger. Like I said, I don't think this is the issue, but we're going to give it a shot anyway. There we go. Okay. Caution, static sensitive devices not to be handled by unauthorized personnel. Who's going to stop me? Now I have to keep these speakers, regardless of whether or not they were the problem in the first place, because I destroyed the packaging. But if they're not the problem, then at least I'll have speakers for another issue. Okay, so this needs to go in with black on the left, so it goes in like this. Okay, so we're going to let the speakers hang, and we are going to turn this on. We're going to do this as rapidly as possible. Let me grab my Joy-Cons, just so I have something to make noise with. Because just pressing the buttons will make noise. Okay. Nintendo, Switch. Okay, we're at the home screen. I cannot believe that's actually what was wrong with them. Both speakers are good. I'll be damned. Did not expect that at all. Hey man, I'll take it. That is a cheap, easy repair. I am not gonna complain. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I got this switch for 80 bucks. So all in, you know, with speakers and everything, I got the switch by itself, like not counting my chargers and stuff, for under $100. So that's great. Before anybody asks, no, excuse me, this will not be cheaper resale just because it was easier for me to fix. It doesn't change the value of the device. Unfortunately, I'm not able to charge what things are worth as far as my labor goes because the market will not bear that cost. So I have to eat dirt on labor. I can't believe both of those speakers are bad. That is interesting. All right, so let's toss these in the garbage. And we're going to do the same thing we did before. Mod chipping this son of a gun. In case you didn't know, there is a pattern here. I don't just repair switches. I don't sell a switch that hasn't been modded. So I don't see the point in it. Picofly to the day I die. I was able to get that one off without leaving any adhesive behind on the NAND. We got the NAND off. Let's clean this up as we go. I'm going to pop off the shield. Okay. Okay. Whole bunch of thermal paste. Gotta love it. It does not look like a factory job. Looks like way too much. If that was a factory job, that is the... Well, I know it's a factory. Well, unless they just didn't replace the thermal putty. But if this is a factory job, it is the most egregious overuse of thermal paste I've seen on. And this thermal paste is old. It's got to be a factory job. There's still indentions from the friggin' capacitors in it. I feel like I can't keep narrating the same stuff over and over again. Oh, I'm removing screws. Oh, I'm scraping the solder paste off. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm really not good at small talk in front of a camera, which makes a lot of this really easy to cut, which I guess is a good thing, because nobody wants to watch a 3-hour video of me talking to myself. I fixed my nephew's switch the other day. So he has a switch light, and which is annoying. A while back, he got it when he was like 6. 6-year-olds don't take care of stuff. Like, they have no idea of responsibility and things like that. So, you know, it got beat up. It got more than beat up. He chews on stuff. Actually, at our old apartment, he was in the corner once and he chewed on the wall. I didn't even know that was something you could do. But he chewed a hole in the wall. Anyway, he chewed on the Joy-Cons, and then he had like a little zip-up case that the zipper was busted on. And all his games were constantly falling out. Like, it was a nightmare. I felt bad for him. This was a while ago. So what started me, I'm going to tell you a story since we're sitting here and you're just watching me do this. What started me on this journey was I found an ad for someone to mod my Switch, and I want to say it was $200. And at the time, I was selling my Xbox One, which is still in a box. So I was selling it to my wife's father because he wanted an Xbox. He's got a bunch of 360 games, and he wanted to be able to play them. So I was like, okay, well, the best thing you can do is buy an Xbox One. It's backwards compatible with almost all of those games. Even the ones that aren't officially supported generally work. I know there are a few exceptions before somebody comes at me in the comments, but yeah. So I sold him the Xbox One, and I didn't think I did too bad of a deal with him. It was the Xbox One. It's 2 controllers, 2 charge cables, 2 rechargeable battery packs, like 5 or 6 games. No, it was like 8 games. I want to say we agreed on like $150, which is a little overpriced for an Xbox One. I get that, but it wasn't horrible. And for what he wanted, he was getting everything that he wanted out of it. I thought everything was kosher. Calls me up a couple of days after we agree on everything, and he's like, hey, is it going to be a problem if I don't buy that Xbox off of you? I wanted to say, yeah, we're going to rumble. I didn't. I was just like, no, it's not a problem. Do what you got to do. He's like, I just want something brand new in case, something happens, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, whatever. That's cool. So I didn't have, because he didn't buy that for me, I didn't have the money to mod my Switch, even though I really wanted to. But it was a blessing in disguise, because I talked to my wife into letting me buy the tools, which was more expensive, but I sold it to her as a return on investment down the line, which eventually it will be. I will eventually make my money back when I stop spending it all at AliExpress. So anyway, talked my wife into backing me up on getting the tools to do it myself. And I told her, I was like, listen, it's going to save us some money. It's not going to save us money up front, but it will save us some money when it comes time to get my nephew something for Christmas. Because all I've got to do is buy the mod chip, which I ended up buying more than that, but that was the premise anyway. And I also was like, this isn't going to be horribly difficult. I can learn how to do this. If I can learn how to do this once for myself, I can learn how to do this many, many times and make a business out of it. And it took some talking, but she agreed. She said, it made sense. And so we did it. Bought this soldering iron for $40. Bought the microscope that I have, the little cheap digital one that I had before I got this one, for like $60. I had solder. I had a bunch of ancient soldering equipment from like Radio Shack. The only thing I didn't use from that, or the only thing that I replaced from that, was the soldering iron. And of course, I got the microscope so that I could actually see what I was doing. Anybody who does this without a microscope is insane. I know it can be done. Still say you're insane. So I convinced my wife to get on board with that. So we got the soldering iron, we got the microscope, and that's how I started. I don't know if you can see this. Let me see. So right here, there's a black table right next to my work desk, and I started there on half of that table with just a soldering iron and a microscope. And did all of this. Now I take a lot of this stuff for granted because, now I have a fume extractor, I have places for all my solder and my flux and all that stuff. This is ballooned into. I have hot air. I have a hot plate. I didn't have any of this stuff to begin with. I didn't have the capability or the knowledge to be able to do an OLED mod, even with the adapter. It was an adventure. And it's what I'm still on today. I don't know how we're gonna do this. Here we go. That's how. Okay. So, I'm gonna grab our paste or our flux. And this time I'm gonna use the Mechanic M35 because I have it. I might as well use it. I got everything that I needed to begin modding switches. From the soldering iron back on and wait for that to heat up. Started ordering the mod chips from China. That was the biggest expense, just because even at $6 a piece, like 10 of each, I think, So it was almost $200 just in mod chips. And I started trying to advertise on Facebook, and that was very difficult to deal with. Not all bad though. Like, I met a guy on Facebook that I ended up becoming really good friends with. Shout out, John, in case my friend was watching. My friends are watching. I have 2 friends named John. I do not want to imply that I met John T on Facebook, because I didn't, or Facebook Marketplace. But I did meet John O on Facebook Marketplace. And John O is a good dude. And his wife is a sweet person. And they deserve all the happiness in the world. If you are the praying type, please do so for them. The Facebook Marketplace thing has been really, really up and down. Like, you get some people who are like, they don't want to spend a dime. They just want to talk the information out of you on how to do it. And it's at the end of the day, if you have the skill set, more power to you, man. Like, absolutely. Like, I'm not going to withhold the knowledge from anybody. It really sucks that you chose my business post to be like, hey, this is what I want to do. And it also sucks that you're not doing it for the love of the game or to make money or whatever. You're doing it just to do your own. And then that's it. Because I got to tell you, I don't mind sharing knowledge. But man, put it to use. Maybe at the top again. That looks fine. I'm just going to smooth that out. I just have too much solder on this tip. It keeps making these little spikes. Okay, so I'm just going to touch that up again. That looks good. That looks good. That looks good. That looks good. And of course, my 2 ground points are fine. So you get some people who just want to question you to death to learn the process. And it's like, you could learn the process the same way I did by just, reading. Whatever. Once again, I'm not going to be a gatekeeper. I'm not going to withhold knowledge from anybody. If you want to learn, you want to learn, and that's great. But then you also want to come in there and be like, oh, you're overcharging people, you're taking advantage, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I had people tell me, I was charging way too much. And keep in mind, acquiring switches at this point. Didn't have the capital. There we go. This was purely for repairs, or not repairs, but mod chips. That's literally all I was doing. Repairs and everything sprung out of that, and a love of the YouTube repair community and the personalities that go along with it. Shout out to Zach at NanoFix, James at JFix, Joey at Joey Does Tech, Ace Console Repairs. All you guys are awesome. Love everything that you do. Keep it up. That's a big reason why in my introductory video I said there were a lot of great voices in this space, and I just wanted to add my perspective. I don't want to take away from these people, and I'm not going to justify my existence, but also these people are genuinely loved for good reason. They're great people, great personalities, really good at what they do, very knowledgeable. There's a guy in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in that super smart. He's an electrical engineer, like designs circuits, smart guy. His name is Thomas, and I'm going to assume his last name is Wynn because he's listed as Thomas NG. I'm assuming that's not his full last name, but he's a genius, and I really wish he had a YouTube channel because I would watch it every single day. There are certain people that I basically froth at the mouth to get more content. Zach releases way too sporadically, drives me crazy. He should have had a live stream today, and I never got a notification for it. That's on you, Zach. Just messing with you. Zach's got a new baby at home, so, there's any number of reasons why Zach could not be engaged. Me doing repairs and stuff, that just kind of sprung up out of the fact that it was like, you have the skill, solder, and, soldering by itself is not, a huge friggin' skill. It just takes a little bit of information and a lot of patience. A lot of people don't take the information that they're given and utilize it the way that they should. And that's probably going to make somebody laugh, like somebody on here, because I know somebody in my comments or somebody somewhere is going to be like, oh, you're doing this wrong and you're doing that wrong. I know somebody out there is going to be watching my videos and be critical. And that's okay. I don't mind critical. I mind critical without a purpose. Like, if you're just talking smack to talk smack, that irritates me. When I talk crap to people, there's always a purpose. Like, I want to help them improve, or I want to tell them what a stupid idiot they are. But there's always a purpose. Moment of truth. I did not check to see if this chip was flashed. It glitched. Go right back in there and turn the power back off, or disconnect the battery. There we go. I got off on a tangent about, the repairs and stuff. I had people telling me that I was charging way too much and that I was taking advantage of people. And keep in mind, when I started this journey, I could not find someone to mod my Switch for less than $200. I charge, and keep in mind, when I say mod my Switch, they were just going to slap a mod chip in it, throw tinfoil on there, and send me on my way. I charge $225, and that's fully loaded out the door. So 75 or $225 for a V1 or V2. For a light, I charge $25 more because it's a little bit more of a pain in the neck because the adapters suck, and probably half the time I end up just running wires by hand. And then the OLED is $75. I charge, instead of $75, I charge $150 for the OLEDs. Just because of the risk of potentially screwing it up. Somewhere down the line, more experience under my belt, and I have more spare parts, and I have more of everything. Maybe I can reduce that price, because I would like to. This is fun for me. This isn't just about money. So, like, the more of these I get to do, the better. And if I can reduce my price from 25% and increase the volume of orders 10 or 15%, that's worth it to me. Even if I end up losing money on the back end, it's worth it to me to be able to do this and to have fun. I charge $225 for V1, V2. So it's $75, $75, $75. So it's $75 for the mod chip installation. It's $75 for a full emulator set and a full ROM set. I want you to have the best possible experience. And then the final $75 is I fill up your SD card with whatever games you want. Yes, I've had some people tell me that I'm way too expensive and that I'm taking advantage of people, and like, oh, it only cost me $100 and set up the tinfoil and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, one, tinfoil is not an option anymore. Like, you're playing whack-a-mole with free shops, and it's just not worth it. Like, when I first modded my Switch, I was using tinfoil, and it was like, every single day I turned it on, it was a crapshoot as to which shops were going to work. And I finally got tired of it and started using DBI and getting the games on my computer and transferring them over USB. It's slower for sure, but it's way more consistent, and I don't have to worry about pretty much anything. Like, everything works. The site is solid. It's not going to be disappearing anytime soon, as far as I know. I've done many V2s. The V1s are few and far between. Very rare that I get a V1. And I know some people in the comments are going to be outraged by the fact that I modded it or that I put a mod chip in it instead of getting like a RCM loader or something like that. I have no interest in that stupid crap. I've had some limited interactions with our V1 modded switches that were using RCM loaders. Do not care for them at all. I don't care for them, so I don't mess with them. But yeah, so like, you get the people who want to pick your brain. You get the people who want to call you an a-hole for charging too much, when I feel like I wasn't charging too much. And I say that fully aware of the fact that I am charging what seems like a considerable amount of money for V-switches that I'm repairing now. But I say that with the full knowledge of how much I've spent in time, but also like actual money. Like, I had to buy the Switch. I had to buy the parts to fix the Switch. I had to buy the mod chip. I had to buy... For this one, I had to buy speakers. For the next one, I have to buy a shell. Like, I had to buy controllers for all of them. I had to buy chargers for all of them. I had to buy docking cables for all of them. So it's just like... And granted, they're little purchases. $15 here, $30 there, $50 there. It adds up. And I sat down and I did the math. It's on my TikTok. It's like $610 without figuring in labor. If I charged exactly what I charge already for all the stuff that I'm doing on these switches. But I'm charging $425, and that includes shipping to the continental United States. If you need it to be shipped to Europe or something, let me know. I can do the EU for $475. I think it'll cost me a little less than $50 more than domestic shipping to get it international. And that's a reasonable, that's like 3 days. So it's a reasonable ship rate. Like, I don't want you to be waiting on this stuff for a couple of weeks like I do with my AliExpress orders. All right, let's get these controllers done. I'm actually only going to do one on camera, and I'm probably only going to do one tonight. It's already past the end of my work time, so I would like to get off, go home. I'm at home, but go be with my wife. First things first. Did I grab the right controller? Yes, I did. Okay, so let's put this bracket in here. Got this for reference. So I put the buttons in the right place. Technically, they're only supposed to fit in one way and into one slot. I just have this feeling I would figure out a way to screw it up. A lot of people get intimidated by doing these controllers because there's so many small parts and stuff. It's really not that difficult. And I'm not trying to sound cocky. Like, I legit am not. Like, it's just fun. You want frustrating? Take a Nintendo DS apart. You want to get mad? Take a PSP apart. Try to do a case swap. This is nothing. Okay, this is frustrating. No matter how many times I try to turn this plus button over, it will not turn over. It keeps spinning and like acting a fool. I tried to find a different mat because it feels like all of us, other than Joey, maybe. Well, let me rephrase. So it feels like Zach and a bunch of other people, like not Joey or any of the other people that I watch regularly, but it feels like a lot of people. Like anytime I see people doing work on like Facebook, or I see some videos that they're from content creators I don't watch, a lot of them have this blue mat. Zach has this blue mat, and his says Relife on it instead of whatever mine says, which is screw position. You know, mine doesn't have a brand name anywhere on it, I don't think. Anyway, I looked for a different color mat, and they had like black ones and stuff like that, and I figured I'd lose screws on it and stuff, so I didn't go with that. I wanted to find a purple one, and nobody's got a purple. Nobody on Alley, anyway. I realize I'm quiet, and small talk really isn't my forte. Talking about stuff I give a crap about, that's easy. Talking about, like earlier when I was talking about my nephew and like my start and all this, like, well, that's easy stuff. And, like, I could sit here and talk for hours about all the videos I got coming up because I'm passionate about those things and it's easy. I don't remember. I want to say those two for the analog stick. Those two for. So I guess I'll just talk about videos I got coming up because that's really all I got. So I have a new test board coming in. It's supposed to be here Tuesday, so hopefully I can do my first soldering iron tests on it on Tuesday or Wednesday. It's going to be, so it's a nice large board. It's 8 inches by 8 inches, which ended up costing me a flippin' fortune. Like, they were expensive. And to be honest with you, like a lot of it, so they were expensive under my original spec, and then I got them down to like a fair compromise. And then when it was time to pay, they hit me with friggin' tariffs because it's from China. But I'll give them this. Even with the tariffs, they were ridiculously cheaper than American companies. I checked out a couple of American companies, and holy moly. One company wanted over $600 for 3 boards. For reference, I ended up buying 10 boards for $90. Now, granted, I paid over $200 with shipping and tariffs. I'm having a really hard time with this ribbon. It does not want to bend. I'm really afraid I'm going to end up breaking it. Okay, so I'm going to take this board out. Okay, take this board out. I'm going to take this board out. There we go. I'm going to put these little ribbons in with the board out first, and then I will reseat the board. Shouldn't have to do it that way, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like there is any other way to do it. And this is one of my biggest issues. My dexterity and fine motor skills are poor, so as a result, getting these little ribbons in there can be an arduous process. There you go. One down, one to go. You know, I talked a lot of smack earlier about how easy these were, and now it's got me looking stupid. So anyway, these boards are 8 inches by 8 inches. They were originally really expensive because I originally got them with 2 ounces of copper on the outside and 1 ounce of copper on the inside. I would have made them pretty heavy-duty boards, especially for testing. Would have been great for testing heat transfer, thermal recovery, all that stuff. Now, I dropped them down to 1 ounces on the outside and a ½ ounce on the inside. So half of my original spec. It's still going to be good test of thermals and such. Thermal recovery and, I don't know why that looks crooked, but it does. Oh, it's because of the board. Okay, so the board isn't flat for some unknown reason. The board is going to have a big copper pad for me to pour solder into, just so I can see how the iron can handle constantly being fed solder if it can maintain its temperature, and to see how it recovers at the end. So when you take the solder off and you take the heat off, or you take it off the board, and it's no longer pumping that heat out, how does it recover? I'm expecting good things. I'm expecting to get some good information. There are 0201 pads, 0402 and 0603s, as well as a 1206 pad. These pads are for test soldering stuff. And like I said before, this iron will not pass the 0201 test. First things first, we gotta get it on here and line up everything that goes around it. Before I do that, let me double check and make sure there's nothing else that needs to be connected first. Yeah, see, I've got some ribbons and stuff that need to be connected first. So that does make life a little bit easier. I'm hoping that anybody who watches these videos can get a good idea for why these are my favorite tweezers. And a big part of that is just how versatile they are for just about everything. But when I stripped that screw on that switch, and I had to physically break the shell to get it apart because it had to be modded. It was a brand new device for somebody, and I did that. I had only used my electric screwdriver twice. Tried to back it out, wouldn't back out. Like it just slipped off. Tried it again, slipped off. So I was like, you know what? Not gonna push my luck. I grabbed my manual screwdriver. It was stripped, so that's really frustrating. It's this. It's gonna go like that, but it's got to be attached to this. So I'm putting the battery connector back in, and I almost touched because it has little test points on the connector so that you can use a multimeter and check the status of the battery. I almost bridged those with my metal tweezers. I've done that before and kill the battery. All right, so the battery is properly connected because it's searching to try to connect to the console. Looking good so far. So we got 2 done. I will probably do another 2 on camera, and then 2 I will probably fix not on camera, just because I don't want to flood people with videos of the same stuff over and over again. So I will probably video, so I have 4 left. One of them is a shell swap, which I've done 2 of on camera, so you're good to go there. One of them is Digitizer replacement. I'll do that one on camera. And then I have 2 that require USB-C ports replaced. So I'll do one of those on camera. I'll look at them both. I'll take the backs off. Excuse me. I'll look at them both and make sure, whichever one is more damaged or needs more work, that's the one I'll do. If they're both just internal damage to the USB, I'll just pick one at random and throw it up on the channel, throw it in the video. But if one does have like internal damage, like, traces that need to be repaired or anything like that, then I'll do that. Which will be fun to watch because you've seen how I shake like a car on bad gas. So that'll be fun. Anyway, thank you for coming by. Thank you for sticking around. I don't know how long this video is actually going to end up being. A lot of it's going to get edited out. There's a whole chunk of video that's going to just disappear because it had no audio. Anyway, you guys have a good night. Cheers.